So welcome to our stress busting episode. So as you know by now, we help people move from stressful to stress free by using a variety of mind, body and heart work. Okay, so in this episode, we will share with you 3 ways to overcome stress.
But first, let's ask you, have you ever experienced feelings of dread, feelings of anxiety, or just heightened stress at your tipping point? Have you experienced overthinking, negative thinking, tension throughout your neck, shoulders, your jaw, and just anywhere inside your body?
And have you felt stressed about being stressed? Okay. Have you experienced like back pain or digestive issues from being stressed? And have you kind of always felt like constantly worried? Maybe you have trouble sleeping, your mind's racing, or you might just feel like feeling wired all the time.
Don't worry guys, because listen, we've been there too. We've felt exactly all of those things at some point or other in our lives. For me, it was really interesting though, I have to say, because I would never have described myself as a stressed person. I was always somebody so focused on kind of where I'm going that actually in a sense I kind of neglected that checking in with myself and actually how I was feeling. However, there were some clear signs that I was stressed and I wasn't necessarily acknowledging them. So for me, I got to the point where I would just feel like tense in my body, but I would also kind of bottle things up. So however I was feeling, I'd bottle it up, and then all of a sudden I get to my tipping point and I burst into tears. Then all of a sudden, all of the things that are bothering me all come out in one hit, and that's a form of massive stress, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I when I was stressed, I actually knew I was stressed. I used to say to myself every day, God, I'm so stressed today. But the thing is, I was always blaming other people for that stress. So every time I'd go to work, it's going to be a stressful day. This person's not going to do the job properly, or this is going to happen. And I was always letting obviously other people cause my stress for me. And I used to then take it out on those people. And it took me a while to realize that pretty much that just wasn't true. That wasn't the reality of it. It was my perception of them and of stress itself that was causing my own stress. I was causing my own stress, and because of that, I was feeling pain all over my body. It was constantly heavy, and I was literally, I just had no energy at all. I can't even remember the last time at that point in time where I felt energized, or even what energized felt like. I was just kind of forcing life, and in terms of literally I had to force myself to get out of bed, I had to force myself to go to work, I had to force myself to train, and it just kept adding on to the stress and just getting worse and worse and worse.
And the crazy thing is, guys, we had to get to the point of kind of our rock bottom. We had to get to the point of just feeling so bad that we had to take action and move forward, because the alternative was to just stay spiraling, or just to stay at that kind of rock bottom of just feeling like really bad about ourselves. And there's only so far you can go when you're bursting into tears all the time and you've got no energy. There's only so far that you're going to get with your goals, with your relationships, with anything that's important to you. So we kind of got to that point and we had a choice to make. Do we want to keep going the way that we are, or do we actually want to make some changes and live the life that we knew that we actually wanted to and could? And this is where kind of the solution kind of came about, because we kind of went on the search. This is when we then was like, okay, what is it we need to know? What is it that we're missing that everybody else seemed to have all figured out? And that was when we sort of started to learn. Like John went and did some training with Robin Sharma. For those of you who don't know who he is he's the author of The Leader Without a Title, 5am Club, and many other awesome books. And he's like really exceptional leadership business coach. And I went and did some a few different qualifications within like the coaching space, more around psychology, emotional mastery, and these kind of things. And it was from there we got to learn about ourselves and then how we could help others. But first we kind of had to go on our own journey and figure this stuff out for ourselves, because we can't help others if we've got no energy and we're like bursting into tears all the time. It just doesn't work like that, does it?
No, definitely, for sure. And basically like since then we've helped so many people to do exactly the same. Really, we've helped people change their lives, to have better relationships, basically to have a much better and deeper understanding of themselves, to be more energized, to be healthier, to speak up for themselves, and also just to go after what it is they actually want.
Yeah, and guys, listen, we want to make sure that you go away listening to this episode with something really like actionable that you can take and use like right now. But just before we share those kind of stress busting tips with you, we want to share you 3 common myths, and these myths actually can stand in the way of you being stress free or not.
For sure. And stress, the first myth is stress is normal and everyone feels it, so we should just live with it. Okay, for first of all, no, stress is not normal. It's normal in the terms of sense that it's there, but it's not normal to have it 24/7 and just to accept it and live with it. Okay, our ability to handle stress is unique as human beings. Okay, as human beings, we survive and thrive in different situations. Take the Eskimos, for example. They survive in extreme cold. The desert nomads survive in extreme heat. Okay, we can survive in any situation, and that's what's great about stress and its ability to help us adapt. But when the stress gets too great and lasts for too long, this is when it starts to break down our resources and our ability to adapt. Okay, and we become much more vulnerable, and our risk of disease increases tenfold.
Yeah, and short amounts of stress is like okay, isn't it? So yeah, short amount of stress is normal, but living with it isn't normal, and it shouldn't become your new normal.
Definitely should only last for a very, very short period of time to help you adapt to a new situation or a new change in your life, and then you go back to that nice relaxed state again.
Yeah, exactly. So guys, myth number 2 here is that all stress is bad. If I'm stressed, there's something wrong with me. It's me that's the problem, right? There's so much stress out there. And the thing is, not all stress is bad. It's okay if you have a little bit of stress. Like John just said, we can thrive with a little bit of stress and knowing how to adapt and cope with it. The problem comes, right, is when we keep the unnecessary stress. So when we're helping people go from stressful lives to stress-free lives, what we're really saying here is that we can help you get rid of any unnecessary stress that you don't need to be feeling, okay? Because there's always going to be little stresses that happen. You're a human being, you're living amongst other people. There's going to be little stress factors all the time. But you mastering that is absolutely essential, and recognizing what is good stress and what is bad stress. So bad stress is when we are experiencing over prolonged periods where you're experiencing and suffering the things that we said at the start of this episode around overthinking, stress, digestive issues, tension in the body. If you're experiencing all of those kind of things, then that's not good stress. But good stress, on the other hand, can move us into action. When we're a little bit stressed about how a conversation's going to go, maybe we prepare even more, so we actually use it to our advantage. Sometimes if let's say you're crossing a road and a car speeds down the road, that stress kicks in and you step back onto the curb, right? That saves your life. That's good stress. Okay, you want that. So the goal here isn't to pretend that everything's rosy all the time and that everything's perfect. It's not. It's about making sure you understand the difference between good stress and not good stress, and that it's not all bad. And when you start to leverage it in the way that you want to, that's when you can actually do you a favor in life rather than the opposite.
For sure. And the last myth here is most people think stress is about punching a wall or getting emotional and angry. Okay, and that's not always the case. Okay, it's a lot of the time it's actually not the case. You'll be surprised of how many people you come across who are in a state of stress and they don't look like it. Okay, and they don't even realize it as well. So say for example, most people think that they have a stressful day, they get home and they sit in front of the TV and they go, oh, it's time to relax now. But what they don't realize is internally they're probably still in a stress state, and that comes down to kind of one of the most important parts of your stress response is your breath. Like, you could be physically sitting on a sofa and your body's not doing anything, but you could be breathing a lot or hyperventilating without even realizing it. And when you hyperventilate, you take too much oxygen in, and when that happens, that increases your stress. Okay, and so internally, your breath, your body is in a constant state of fight or flight, even if you don't realize it. And that's just you watching a movie. So you might not even know you're stressed at the time. So it's important to become aware of that, and just kind of realize that it's not about punching a wall. It's not about punching someone else or flipping out or getting angry or emotional, crying. It can be some very subtle things.
Physical, isn't it?
It can be physical, it can be internal, external. You might not be showing anything, but internal could be happening all the time. Without you even knowing.
Definitely, especially when you ever feel like you've got a little niggle and you don't know where it comes from. You didn't injure yourself or anything, but you just feel something in your body. That's a signal, that's a sign from your system to say, mate, I'm stressed, come help me, listen to what's going on within so that we can deal with this and move forwards. I've heard, obviously John said this I think on a previous episode around Netflix and chill, but you forget to chill. And that's the thing, though. Sometimes clients come to us and they're like, I'm experiencing these thoughts, and I can't achieve what I want, and I'm not sure why. Like, there's something holding me back, there's something limiting, and I can't figure out what it is. And they say to me, well, I'm not working all the time. Some people obviously are, but a lot of people say, no, I'm taking downtime, I have time off at the weekend, I'm trying to go to bed early, and they're doing all these things because they think they're resting, they think they're like de-stressed at that time. But like John said, half the time they're not even aware of what's going on in their nervous system. It is very tricky then to be able to push past that and actually rectify it in the way that it needs to. Alright, so those are your myths, okay? So take note of them, because if you're buying into any of those myths, immediately you can start to switch how you're thinking about it, which will be a game changer. But we've now got 3 stress busting tips that are really going to help you, either when you are stressed or even proactively before you possibly would be stressed. So obviously you can use these for both proactive and reactive. We obviously recommend that you use them as a proactive tool, so you don't have to wait until you're stressed to then recover from it. You can actually start to prevent stress in the first place. Okay,
definitely. And the first tip is breathing. So this is like the foundation to stress. Okay, so it is one of the easiest ways to increase your stress or eliminate stress within like minutes, sometimes seconds, when you get used to it. So the key here is to slow your breathing down. And when you notice, when you're stressed, when you're rushing around, when you're angry, anything like that, your breathing increases. You basically breathe a lot through the mouth. You're taking too much oxygen the body can handle, and the stress response increases, and you're in that fight-flight response. So by taking some deep breaths, and I mean deep, so when I mean deep, not forceful, just taking in through the nose, deep into the belly, expand the belly. Okay, breathe for 5 seconds. Okay, and then breathe out through your mouth for 10 seconds. So what we call like a grounding, calming breath. Okay, and you do this 10 to 12 times, and automatically you'll feel whatever was that overwhelm, that stress, everything just relaxes straight away. You switch your states. Okay, that fight-flight response is now switched into a rest and recovery response, and that's what you're looking for. So if you're next time as a reactive, next time if you're stressed or you're overwhelmed or something's happening and you're just like pent up, just take 10 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, 5 seconds in, 10 seconds out, and I guarantee you'll feel automatically just completely relaxed and different. But when we talk about proactive, the goal is to become aware of your breath and become aware of your breathing habits from when you wake up to when you go to sleep. Okay, and this is what's going to create a much robust stress response. So the more you get used to this and it becomes your standard breathing pattern, when a stressful situation does arise, or you're about to enter one that you know normally causes you stress, you know that you can go in there with a much more resourceful state. And if you do feel that kind of that bit of anxiety coming up, that bit of tension, you know, okay, just take 1 or 2 deep breaths and you're back to your baseline again. Okay, and then that's that proactive response. So you're constantly keeping your body in a more resourceful state. Yeah,
definitely. Very, very, very powerful. If you just do that one, you're good to go, pretty much, right? And I would say that it's like, try not to do all of these things at once. Just pick one thing that you feel like is going to work for you and try it out, because it's the simplest things sometimes that make the biggest difference. So the second thing that you need to do, the second tip here, is to become aware of your quality of thinking. And for sure, this is not the first time you've heard me talk about this, because our quality of thinking will directly impact how we are feeling. Okay, so let's use the classic example of watching something on TV that is scary, or something that is upsetting, right? Something that's scary, that literally frightens you, like a horror movie, or something that is saddening or upsetting, that's like, you know, like some drama or whatever, and you get completely sucked into it. You respond accordingly to what it is you're watching. So what happens is you're thinking about the thing that you are seeing, therefore you're getting a reaction internally. And we do this all the time, not only when we're watching TV or movies, but we're doing this as well in our everyday lives. If I wake up in the morning thinking that my day is going to be stressful or hard and challenging, then I'm going to get that kind of feeling inside that is going to prepare me to go in for that fight, go in for that challenge. Therefore my nervous system is already like pumped up, right? And I might not even get out of bed yet, right? But I'm feeling that way, let alone like be in the situation. And then, because then when you're in the situation, you've already started the day like that, it's even more heightened. So what we want to do here Let's become aware of the quality of our thinking and start to kind of retrain how we think, so that we start thinking, okay, today I've got this meeting, I've got this appointment, but before that I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and you really kind of plan in how you're going to think about and how you're going to perceive it. So okay, this meeting might be challenging, I might have to talk about something I'm uncomfortable with, therefore I'm going to breathe first. How can I make this so actually is more comfortable? And then you get to actually be a lot more resourceful, and you perceive the situation differently, and you walk into that meeting, for example, feeling calm, feeling resourceful, and ready to go into action. Because when we are in too much of a stressed state and we walk into these situations, these daily situations, the intelligent part of our brain almost switches off in a way. Depends how stressed you are as to how much it switches off, but you can't perform at your best when you're in that heightened stress state. So the goal here is for you to become aware of the thoughts that you're thinking, and what is that inner dialogue that is causing you to have this emotional reaction. Because when you have that emotional reaction, you get the chemical hit inside your body, which triggers your nervous system. Now your body gets tense, it starts to just respond in a way that you actually don't want. And again, the more you do this over time, the more stressful life becomes, and then we kind of feel like the walls are closing in on us, and actually there's too much stress for us now to deal with. So your quality of thinking plays a massive role in that.
Definitely. And tip number 3 is movement. Okay, and you've heard us say this many times before in the past, how movement is essential. Okay, movement is essential for life, movement is essential for stress release, movement is essential for everything. Our bodies are born and designed to move. When we don't, our bodies will let us know by basically energy blockages, pain, discomfort, stress. So the more we move, the better the flow of energy through our body, which means the better it's in a much more resourceful state to be able to handle stress. So this is where our somatic response comes in. We've touched on this in previous episodes before, whereas if children have an awesome somatic response is when something happens or they're upset or they're angry, they just let it out physically, their arms are flailing, they're crying, shouting, whatever. So that's a somatic response. But as adults, we learn to kind of restrict that and keep everything in, and we think, well, it's not like the done thing to release that energy in that way in a work environment or a home or wherever. So we build it up, and then that leads to people pacing up and down when they're anxious, or they end up biting their nails, or they end up fidgeting a lot, and they've got all this pent up energy, obviously stressful energy, this anxiety that's building up, and it usually then releases itself in a much more unhealthy way, where they snap at someone or someone they love, or they obviously hurt someone they love, or something happens, or they hurt themselves. And this is why kind of movement is key to help release that pent-up energy. And one thing that I like to do, I do all the time, I even do it now, without even realizing it, it becomes unconscious, where I just like to, if I'm standing up, I'll just bounce on my toes, bounce on the spot, and just start shaking my limbs. And it just helps the energy flow, and I don't feel stress anymore, but it's one thing I used to do when I was feeling stressed, and now it's become just a natural reaction for me to keep things flowing. So next time you feel stress as a reactive based response, literally just bounce up and down on your toes, let everything relax, shake your arms, shake your body, just let everything relax and move. And when you do that, you'll probably find that you want to make some sounds. That's normal. Let it come out. Whatever's in here, just let it out in whichever way it comes. Obviously, if you're in a kind of the middle of an office and a work environment,
freak everyone out.
Don't freak everyone out. But I mean, if you're at home or somewhere where you can do that, or you can go somewhere to do that.
For a walk in the park.
Just do it. It's amazing. You just literally just shake, let what comes out for 30 seconds, and trust me, you'll feel amazing afterwards. But for a proactive response, it's making sure that you are very conscious and mindful of moving every single day. Whether you go for a walk, you do yoga, you do qigong, you do tai chi, you swim, whatever it is get your body moving as much as possible, because that helps that energy flow in the body, and any blockages that are there will start to become unblocked, and that pent up energy you're feeling, that stress, will just start to dissipate and eliminate. And then that means your body is in a much more resourceful state, and to handle any potential stresses that might come up in your day.
Yeah, definitely. So guys, pick one of those things, try them out individually, try them all out together, whatever you prefer, but choose the one that you think is going to resonate the most and start there, because it will change the game for you. Now, it's really important to also consider if you're still stressed after you've done those things. Okay, so there's 3 things there that can really start to eliminate your stress altogether. But if you're still feeling what we call chronic stress, which is repeatedly experiencing these stress states or stressed internal issues, then it is likely that there's some deeper work that needs to be done, and we need to go exploring a little bit more. One of the ways, obviously, we do this with clients is we will release any unresolved negative emotions, because what we do over time is we collect emotion, right? Something that happens when you're a kid, something that happens when you're a teenager, something that happens when you're an early adult, something that happens later in life, right? You're collecting all the emotions, and if you've not been doing those 3 things we just said along the way, you keep it all inside of you, and eventually what happens, those unresolved negative emotions get blocked and blocked and blocked, and they build up to the point where we tip, right? We shout, we cry, we punch a wall, like whatever the thing is, that's unresolved negative emotion that's coming up. That's why we get so easily triggered. So we work through some past trauma stuff there that's relevant, anything that might point us in the direction of understanding why you're having these repetitive patterns and why you're being triggered by certain things. Then what we're able to do is retrain your quality of thinking, your nervous system, so that it's now working for you and not against you. Your nervous system won't feel like it needs to protect you at any moment. It will actually be on your side so that you can show up resourcefully, stress-free, so that you are more resilient. So like we said, you're a human being, you're going to experience stressful moments, but instead of going from 0 to 100 next time somebody says something and you take it personally, actually what you're more likely to do is recognize it, take a breath, step back, and actually think resourcefully about it and let it go. So you're no longer reacting to somebody that says something to you, or somebody that cuts you up in the car, or something that your partner says that is a bit out of turn just because they were tired, not because they meant it. And all of these kind of situations become so much easier to manage, and now those issues don't become part of your identity because you let them go soon enough, and that creates space for even more of the good stuff that you actually want in your life, so you can achieve the goals that you actually want as well.
Definitely, that sounds absolutely awesome, doesn't it, guys? So that's something that we all want to do on a nice relaxed resource for life. So the first thing that, guys, we want you to do after watching this or after listening to this podcast is to check in with yourself. So that's the first step, is am I stressed? Okay, am I feeling any type of stress? So it could be, again, internally, how's my breathing, how's my, obviously, emotions, my thinking, obviously, what feelings am I feeling in my body? So check in with yourself and just see what's going on. Okay, then try the 3 things, or at least one of the 3 things that we just mentioned. So your breathing, your quality of thinking, or your movement, or all 3. Okay, go through all 3, it's not a problem. And then once you've tried those, if you're still feeling stressed, okay, then jump on and book a call with us, and we will be able to basically delve deeper into kind of your stress, what's causing your stress, what the underlying issues are there, to help kind of set a plan in place to help you become stress-free.
Nice. So guys, if you've got any questions based on anything that we talked about in this episode, please reach out, send them in to us. We're more than happy to answer them. And obviously, please share this episode with anybody you know that is stressed and needs some help, because these 3 tips will literally change your life if you want to actually become stress-free.